Mr. Prime Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I want to wish you a really warm welcome to Oslo, to Norway, and to the Oslo City Hall. Let me right away start by thanking the Mayor of Oslo, Madam Anne Lindboe, who welcomed us this morning for opening this very beautiful room, which has a strong symbolic value, because this is where the Nobel Peace Prize is awarded. Take note if anybody is interested. And it's also where Shimon Peres, Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat received the Peace Prize in '94 for their work on the original Oslo Accords. That's 31 years ago, 1994. I wish you welcome also on behalf of the co-initiators of the Global Alliance for Implementing the Two-State Solution, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who again represents the OIC, League of Arab States group, and consisting of, this working group consisting of the foreign ministers of Bahrain, of Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, Qatar, Turkey, and of course the Kingdom itself, but also the European Union, External Action Service Commission, and I also take note that you brought with you the 27 of the 27 member states of the European Union, so this is a very good cooperation. And we have people in this room, 85 countries and international organizations all together, representing every continent on the planet. So it's really a broad coalition. As I think you are all aware, many of you have been with us throughout this journey, some are new. We formally launched a coalition during UNRWA, the United Nations General Assembly, in September. We then had meetings in Riyadh, moving on to Brussels, and this is the third meeting here in Oslo. This meeting, by the way, I hope will be able to focus particularly on the question of Palestinian state building and institution building. We are meeting at a pivotal time because, as the Prime Minister and I was noting in our remarks to the press, there are very serious signs of a possibly imminent ceasefire in Gaza. We will not celebrate before it's there. but the messages we are getting from all sides is way more concrete and promising than what we've heard before, so we might actually be very close. Yes, we've heard it before, but I allow for some more optimism this time around. That would of course be extremely welcome, because a ceasefire is a prerequisite for all the work that we want to do. But I want to say from the very beginning that a ceasefire is not a solution. A ceasefire means very welcome release of hostages, hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel in Israeli prisons, end of hostilities, withdrawal of troops, of some troops, maps to be agreed, etc. This would be very good, but it's not the solution, because there is no way back to turn the clock back to the 6th of October 2023. That was not a stable solution either. And we need to recognize that it's really the moment to deep dive into what will then happen next. What do we then do? Because just the ceasefire can easily create a sense of vacuum, of unfulfilled hope, and the problems in Gaza would not be over. The divisions would not be over, the hatred would not be laid to rest if it was only a ceasefire. We've seen way too many of those before in the Middle East and also elsewhere on the planet. So this, in a sense, is a starting point. And the work that brings us together in this global coalition is about the next steps. How do we go from there to something that can bring real peace to the people of Palestine, that their inalienable right of self-determination and of choosing the government and running their own country will come to fruition, but also the quest of the people of Israel for finally to be able to live with peace with their Palestinian neighbors, and also finally to be embedded in the region through normalization with important neighboring and regional actors. And in the work that we have been doing, I have used the picture, many of you have heard me say that before, but I look at this very much as a puzzle, like a children's puzzle, where you have seen so many bricks are laid that you can see more or less where it was aiming at, but there are some key pieces of the puzzle that have not been laid, and they have not been laid because everybody wants to hold back their piece until somebody else lay theirs. And how do we identify what are the different elements or building blocks or pieces of this? And what we do know, and what we have identified, that is that at least it requires capacity building, economic stabilization, economic growth, and reform of the Palestinian institutions, preparation for the return of the Palestinian government, Palestinian Authority to also to Gaza, how to build a transition for Gaza from ceasefire to that future where Palestine is again united under one authority, security guarantees for Israel and security guarantees for Palestine, again embedded in the region and where regional players will play a role, normalization politically and diplomatically between Israel and key neighboring states, and here of course the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is playing a very important leading role, working with many of its neighbors and many of us, and universal recognition of Palestine as a state. So the expectation of the international community, as I see it, is that Israel understands that it's time to move on and to help solve the long outstanding issue of Palestine, and of course that our friends in Palestine also work effectively together to build a strong government and a strong capacity, that all the Palestinian territories are united, so that both sides have a good partner in building peace. So this is very much what the coalition is all about. I hope that the meetings we will have today will focus particularly on this theme of institution building, state building, how we can help Prime Minister Mustafa and his team both on their capacity building efforts and their reform efforts, develop the economy as that piece of this broader puzzle, of course, in the context. I also welcome the presence of Philippe Lazzarini, Lazzarini from UNRWA, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, who under very difficult conditions is providing important humanitarian work, as we all know, but also will be called upon to play a role as we move forward to what will once in the future be a normalization of the situation, and where also Palestinian institutions will be able to run the basic services that have been provided historically by UNRWA, and how to build that bridge, and he will say something about that later. I would very much encourage everybody today to focus their interventions on what to do now. I think everybody is here because they know how difficult the situation is now. So we can make, recognizing that short and basically build on the opportunity, the hope, the possibilities for actually turning this very low point that this last war has provided us with into an opportunity for how we move forward. This is my message as your host today, and now I'm very honored to pass the floor to our dear guest of honor, Dr. Muhammed Mustafa, the Prime Minister of the State of Palestine. Over to you, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to stand before this distinguished assembly in Oslo, a city whose very name symbolizes the promise of hope and peace for our region. Let me begin by expressing my profound gratitude to the Kingdom of Norway for its significant and important role in supporting the Palestinian people, championing international law, and upholding the two-state solution. Minister, your recognition of the State of Palestine is not merely a symbolic. It is a courageous, practical step that brings us closer to the realization of a just and lasting peace. Norway's principled decision underscores the central premise of the two-state solution, where an independent and sovereign state of Palestine lives side by side with Israel, along the internationally recognized borders in security, mutual respect, and peace. This recognition inspires hope for millions of Palestinians who have endured decades of hardship and oppression. It strengthens the foundation for peace, affirming our inalienable rights to self-determination, independence, justice, and freedom, and dignity, rights that must be upheld for any just and lasting resolution. Allow me to extend our gratitude to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the European Union, in addition to Norway, for initiating this crucial endeavor, and would like to thank all our friends and partners who are here today, who have united to form the Global Alliance for the implementation of the two-state solution. Excellencies, we gather here at a dark hour for the Palestinian people, the region, and the humanity as a whole. The realities in occupied Palestine stand as a stark testament to the depth of the cruelty that humans can inflict upon one another. These atrocities are the results of an international failure to protect fundamental rights. They could and should have been prevented. In the last year alone, the Palestinian people have endured relentless aggression, especially in Gaza. Gaza has been devastated by a genocidal war that has claimed over 46,000 lives and wounded more than 110,000 people, with the vast majority being women and children. These hardships have tested our resilience without diminishing our resolve. For over 30 years, since the signing of the Oslo Accords, successive Israeli governments have undermined the two-state framework by expanding illegal settlements, weakening the Palestinian Authority, and fostering a culture of impunity that tramples on Palestinian lives, rights, and the very foundation of international law. The work of the UN institutions in the occupied Palestine, including in Jerusalem, has likewise come under severe strain. Notably, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, has faced unprecedented restrictions and violations from the occupying power. From Israel, the occupying power. Ending these measures demands urgent, unified international actions. UNRWA remains a lifeline for the Palestinian people and refugees, particularly in the Gaza Strip, and its functions are replaceable. For 75 years, in line with its mandate, a UN Resolution 302 and 194, UNRWA has protected and provided relief to Palestinian refugees. Its role is vital both now and in any post-war context. All Israeli laws targeting UNRWA must therefore be resolutely rejected. Such attacks are not merely aimed at one agency. They strike at the heart of the international multilateralism, the rights of the Palestinian refugees, and the very concept of the two-state solution, undermining therefore any real hope for peace. Despite the severity of the crisis, this moment offers a crucial chance to act decisively. With recognition, accountability, and international solidarity as our foundation, we can transform despair into hope and adversity into tangible progress. The time has come to take practical measures that advance the two-state solution, address the root causes of this conflict, and directly confront the legality of the Israeli occupation and its ongoing violation of international law. Excellencies, this global alliance must identify and apply concrete, irreversible tools, both collectively and individually, to promote compliance and deter violation and non-compliance. Such steps begin with a comprehensive ceasefire, the lifting of the siege on the Gaza Strip, implementing the UN resolutions including 2334 and 2735, and accountability, thereby paving the way to end the illegal occupation and achieve the two-state solution. Equally crucial is recognizing the State of Palestine and supporting its full membership at the United Nations, in line with the relevant UN resolutions and recent ICJ advisory opinion. As many of you have already done, such recognition is not only an affirmation of Palestinian sovereignty, it's also an immediate investment in lasting peace. Beyond political and legal mechanisms, robust financial and economic support is paramount to realizing our One Palestine plan. Excellencies, while we're waiting for the ceasefire, it's important to stress that it will not be acceptable for any entity to govern Gaza Strip but the legitimate Palestinian leadership and the government of the State of Palestine. Any attempt to consolidate the separation between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip or creating transitional entities will be rejected. Gaza, after all this pain, needs a responsible and capable government to heal the wounds of the Palestinian people and to reintegrate Gaza with the rest of Palestine under one state, one government, one law, and one system. We should not leave Gaza to vacuum. We should move quickly toward relief, early recovery, reconstruction, and peace. We are the government of Palestine, ready to hold our responsibilities in the Gaza Strip, as we did before, and we can assure everyone that we are ready to implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2735 and to reunify the West Bank, including Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, under one government. Accordingly, all Palestinian line ministries and government institutions of the State of Palestine will resume full responsibility for providing public services to the citizens, preparing for reconstruction, and revitalizing the economy. The government will adopt a series of regulatory and administrative measures to enhance institutional operations, leveraging the current field personnel managed by the line ministries already in Gaza, in coordination with civil society and the private sector. The government will also work to mobilize the necessary international support. Furthermore, it will focus on rebuilding and unifying the administrative and justice systems, ensuring the necessary arrangements for maintaining security and managing borders and crossings. This will be done in coordination with the regional and international partners in this very important endeavor. Excellencies, the government of Palestine works tirelessly to build the institutions and the economy of a viable, prosperous future. Our own One Palestine plan embodies our commitment to reunify and rebuild Palestine through resilience, sustainability, and economic transformation. The plan is grounded in 4 overreaching objectives. These objectives are not abstract ambitions. They are practical, actionable steps that reflect our readiness to lead and our vision for the future of Palestine. The first objective is that once a permanent ceasefire is in place, our government stands ready to assume full responsibility for Gaza and to work with the support of our local, regional, and international partners on integrating governance across all Palestinian territory so that every citizen, wherever they reside, enjoys equal rights, services, and opportunities. Second, our efforts will be guided by our principles of transparency, accountability, inclusivity, and the rule of law. We will continue to engage with civil society, local communities, and international partners to build a governance framework that reflects the unity and aspirations of our people. We have made excellent progress on implementing our reform agenda with the support of the EU and the World Bank, and we will continue to implement this program. Third, we plan to lead in partnership with the international community the recovery and reconstruction needs of Gaza by addressing urgent humanitarian needs, restoring critical infrastructure, and mobilizing the needed resources for long-term rebuilding. In collaboration with the World Bank, the EU, and the UN, we are already developing Gaza Reconstruction and Development Plan, GRDP, to initiate a genuine process of reconstruction and economic recovery. Fourth, we seek to drive economic transformation by implementing several strategic development initiatives that can revitalize our economy, create jobs, and promote inclusive and sustainable growth in our national economy. Central to our efforts in the area of economic and institutional transformation is the first phase of the Palestinian government national program for development and reform. This program outlines 7 strategic development initiatives designed to address critical socio-economic challenges and pave the way for sustainable development, and it will be coupled with more than 50 reform milestones clustered around 4 themes, which are designed to enable the execution of these initiatives and create an efficient system of governance. The 7 strategic development initiatives are: 1. Energy security and transition to renewable energy. We aim to make our energy sector more sustainable and resilient by reducing reliance on energy imports and expanding the deployment of renewable energy. The second initiative is to do with the domiciliation of health care services. We aim to strengthen our healthcare services to reduce reliance on external medical referrals and improve access to quality care. And the third initiative is to expand our work on digital economy, digital transformation, advancing digital services in the financial system, in public services and in the courts will enhance transparency and unlock opportunities for innovation and growth. The fourth initiative related to social protection. Initiatives such as food aid, support for people with disabilities, and care for orphan children address the needs of our most vulnerable population, especially in light of the war in Gaza. And the fifth initiatives do with sustainable local government units, enhancing the financial and operational sustainability of local government units will improve service delivery and support green initiatives. The sixth initiative is to do with sustainable agriculture and food security. Investing in local production and irrigation system will strengthen rural resilience and reduce dependence on imports. And finally, the seventh initiative is focused on education for development, aligning education with labor market demands and embracing digital platforms will prepare our youth for future opportunities. These initiatives demonstrate our commitment to fostering resilience and enabling our people to rebuild their lives and livelihoods. But to make all these initiatives possible and make their implementation feasible, we're also adapting a major program for institutional reform, which has, as I said, about 50 milestones for reform that we're already progressing and implementing. But I will summarize these reform measures around four clusters. The first cluster has to do with fiscal policy and public financial management, where rationalizing public expenditure, enhancing revenue generation, and achieving fiscal sustainability are going to be priority. Governance and rule of law is another pillar for our reform measures, strengthening legal frameworks, promoting accountability, and digitizing judicial services and systems. And the third pillar is investment and business environment. We want to make sure that we create a competitive and transparent environment to attract investment and foster private sector growth. And the fourth pillar is ensure basic service delivery being driven by enhancing access to quality services in critical sectors such as water, energy, healthcare, education, and telecommunications in order to improve quality of life of our citizens. These reforms aim to modernize our institutions, improve service delivery, and create an environment conducive to growth and stability. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the challenges before us demand a coordinated global response. We therefore call on members of this global alliance and the broader international community to actively support the Palestinian government in implementing our national program for development and reform over the next 2 years. Your expertise, resources, and collaboration are critical to ensure our success. Specifically, we ask that you, one, provide essential financial and technical support to bolster our development initiatives, institutions, and reforms. Two, assist our planned reconstruction efforts through contributions to the Gaza Reconstruction Trust Fund administered or to be administered by the World Bank. And third, continue advocating for the release of Palestinian tax revenues illegally withheld by Israel. And fourth, hold Israel accountable by ensuring compliance with international law and UN resolutions, including 2735 on Gaza. Excellencies, the Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two-State Solution, the High Contracting Parties Conference, and the International Peace Conference planned for next June are international pillars of progress. Together, they can dismantle obstacles to peace, enforce accountability, and create the conditions necessary for a genuine political path forward. The Palestinian people have endured decades of occupation, yet they remain steadfast in their pursuit of a brighter future. It is our shared responsibility to help realize that hope. Together, we can shape a future where justice triumphs over oppression, where peace supplants violence, and where the Palestinian people, and indeed all people across the region, live in freedom and dignity. Let us rise to this challenge with courage, compassion, and unwavering resolve. In closing, I return to Norway's recognition of the State of Palestine as a powerful example of what is possible when nations stand on the side of justice and equality. On behalf of the Palestinian people, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Norway and all of you, our partners, for your unwavering support. Let us move forward together, turning principles into action and hope into reality. Thank you.
Indeed, let us rise to this occasion. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister Mustafa, for those very wise and important words, which I hope will inspire the delegates throughout today's deliberations. And as a co-initiator of this global alliance, but at the same time the chair of the AHLC, the donor committee on Palestine, I think that what you very ably spelled out is the connection between the political track towards statehood and recognition with the economic track, the enabling the capacity of the state, and these two things are so closely intertwined, so thank you very much for spelling that out. And the last and third of the intervention in this opening segment, I have the honor of giving the floor to Philippe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, and while doing that I want to thank you and everybody that works with you in your organization for the enduring support for the Palestinian people under extremely difficult circumstances, and also condolences of all your losses. But now we are looking into the future, and I look forward to your intervention, Philippe.
Thank you so much, Espen. Foreign Minister Barth, Eide, Prime Minister Mustafa, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, in just 2 weeks, 2 laws aimed at ending UNRWA's operation in the occupied Palestinian territory will enter into force. Full implementation of the laws will ban UNRWA from operating in the sovereign territory of Israel and ban contact between Israeli authorities and the agency. The sovereign territory of Israel implies, for the government of Israel, occupied East Jerusalem, in contradiction to international law and related resolution of the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly. The no-contact policy will effectively end the confliction for safe movement in Gaza. It will also deny international staff visa to work in the occupied Palestinian territory. This staff, if they have no visa, will be compelled to withdraw on the protest. We will, however, stay and deliver. UNRWA's local staff will remain and continue to provide emergency assistance and, where possible, education and primary health care. However, continuing to work will come at considerable personal risk for our Palestinian colleagues. This is due to the exceptionally hostile operating environment created by Israel's disregard for international law and fierce disinformation campaign against the agency. The government of Israel has invested significant financial and diplomatic resources in campaigns that portray UNRWA as a terrorist organization and our staff as terrorist or terrorist sympathizer. The absurdity of these claims does not diminish the threat they pose to our staff, who are increasingly intimidated and harassed by the Israeli authorities. The inability to work safely with full respect for the privileges and immunities of the United Nations will undermine the effectiveness of UNRWA's operation and the trust of our donors. The agency's collapse, whether immediate or gradual, will only compound the immense suffering in Gaza. UNRWA and its personnel and services are woven tightly into the social fabric of Gaza. The disintegration of the agency will intensify breakdown of social order. In the West Bank, the weakening of UNRWA will fuel even greater instability. Across the occupied Palestinian territory, dismantling UNRWA outside a political process will irreversibly harm the life and future of Palestinians. It will obliterate their trust to the international community and any political process, its efforts. For how can we, the international community, explain to Palestinians that the United Nations agency is prevented by national legislation from saving lives and providing basic services? For how can we explain to them that a mandate entrusted by the General Assembly can be revoked by a national parliament? Dear colleagues, a clear choice lies before us. We can allow UNRWA to implode as a consequence of the Knesset legislation and the suspension of funding by key donors, or we can allow the agency to progressively conclude its mandate within the framework of a political process, ensuring adequate funding for essential services such as education and primary health care. The Global Alliance initiative rightly champions an orderly political transition. By safeguarding UNRWA's role as a provider of public-like services, specifically education and primary health, during a political transition, we are preparing the ground for empowered Palestinian institutions to take ownership of these services. I must reiterate here that UNRWA's mandate was always meant to be temporary. It was foreseen at the agency's establishment that it would eventually hand over its services to a Palestinian administration, and that its workforce of teachers, doctors and nurses would form the backbone of a future Palestinian civil service. Despite the numerous changes brought by the decades since UNRWA's establishment, this commitment remains unchanged. During the past months, my health and education teams have been liaising closely with their counterpart in Ramallah to determine how to meet the growing needs of people in the occupied Palestinian territory. UNRWA is the largest provider of primary health care in Gaza and the second largest provider in the West Bank. The agency has helped to maintain the delivery of health services and to strengthen the health system in the occupied Palestinian territory. Even today, in Gaza, UNRWA still conducts approximately 17,000 consultations each day. UNRWA and the Ministry of Health in Ramallah are now focusing on reinforcing collaboration in key areas such as non-communicable diseases, maternal and child health, as well as mental health and psychosocial support. UNRWA has also a pivotal role to play in education. In Gaza today, 650,000 girls and boys are living in the rubble, learning nothing more than how to survive. They have already lost more than 2 years of learning. Absent a full-fledged state, only UNRWA has the capacity to bring these children back to learning. Palestinians value education highly. It is a source of tremendous pride and the only asset from which they have not been dispossessed. If we fail to resume education in Gaza and to preserve it in the West Bank, we will sacrifice an entire generation of Palestinian children. This will have profound consequences for the future of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian state. UNRWA is committed to continue working with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the right to education is a reality for every child in the occupied Palestinian territory. In Gaza, we will prioritize bringing children back to basic education through mechanisms such as temporary learning spaces. In the next 2 years, the Ministry of Education and UNRWA will jointly develop a comprehensive capacity building strategy that emphasizes teacher training as well as integrating mental health and psychosocial support into educational activities. Over the next 3 years to 5 years, our partnership will focus on rebuilding educational infrastructure in Gaza and harmonizing administrative system for enrollment, certification, and quality assurances. This staged approach will ensure the seamless transition of UNRWA education capacities to prepared Palestinian institutions. Dear colleagues, the challenges that confront us are daunting. I'm convinced that we can only prevail by holding to the principles of multilateralism and the rules-based international order. UNRWA is a powerful tool to ensure a viable political transition. I therefore urge you to do your utmost to shield the agency from the political attacks and financial challenges that threaten to abruptly end its life-saving work. Though we have very little time left, we cannot afford to fail Palestinian aspiration. Thank you.
Commissioner General, thank you, Philippe, and I will in 1 second give the floor to Torunn Vista, our special representative to the Middle East peace process, who is here with me and who will be your host throughout the rest of the day. Let me just say, having listened to these two interventions, that I think everybody is aware that the road ahead to the solution that we are seeking is difficult. But I can assure you that all the alternative roads ahead are even more difficult and even more dangerous and dramatic. And let those words inspire you in today's deliberations. Let's focus on what we can do and start from now, look ahead. And I am increasingly convinced that with this broad global support, this can be done. And we have very good partners in the government of Palestine who are ready to do their part of this. And let's make sure that we help them and inspire others to make it possible to do exactly what we've set out to do. But with those words, I give the floor now to Torunn Vista, please.
Thank you, Minister. Their Excellencies, the Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide and Prime Minister Mustafa will now leave this room. We will continue our work immediately afterwards, so I ask you to please find your seats immediately after we conclude this opening session. Thank you.
Sendingen er produsert av Departementenes digitaliseringsorganisasjon.
Thank you.